Mayer Brown Mayer Brown law firm, which is Chicago-based. I think I should say this law firm, Mayer Brown, which was founded in 1882, can be considered the law firm, the largest law firm in the world that was ever established by a German-American immigrant, or the son of German immigrants. So they came over here. He finally ended up in Chicago, a brilliant young man. Story goes that he needed money. He helped in the library. At that time, lawyers needed books. They didn't have a library, so they came. He not only supplied the books, but he solved the problems. They talked with the lawyers, and he solved their problems. It's a real good story. So he went to Yale and so on, became then the founder of this firm. For a number of years, 20, 30 years, the firm was only composed of German Americans, Austrians too. Friedrich was one of our partners. So overall, the firm developed. Now it has 1,600 attorneys worldwide. In Germany, there are 2 law offices in Frankfurt and Düsseldorf. This firm, in other words, stands for the German-American relationship and for promoting it. And I consider this, being the host to this, offering the nice hall here in the town hall, is also an act to celebrate the German-American relationship. Thank you. Thank you.
Michelle and I would like to welcome you tonight to the 28th Annual Council of 1000 Award and Fundraising Gala of the German-American Heritage Foundation of the United States. So a brief word about the organization for those that may not know, and just a reminder for the rest of us who have been involved with the organization for some time. The German-American Heritage Foundation cultivates a great awareness of German-American heritage, history, and culture with our outreach efforts across the United States. And we are, of course, the only national membership organization that serves as a link of Americans proud of the German heritage. And with almost 18,000 members across the United States, of course, we strive to add programs and services nationally that highlight the contributions and achievements of our ethnic group. And Michelle and I tonight, as was mentioned earlier, we're kind of younger members of the board, as it were, and we're delighted to be with you this evening. I'd say a word, if I could, about the year 2014. Of course, this is an historic year for 2014, particularly if you think about the fact that it is the 25th anniversary of the fall of the Berlin Wall on November 9th. We'd like to say a special word of thanks to our sponsor, Kühne and Nagel, for shipping the section of the wall to DC free of charge.
We've had a banner year at the German American Heritage Museum with all kinds of wonderful exhibits, starting with Carnival. We had an exhibit on the German resistance, also on Utopia, and then starting tomorrow we'll be beginning a photo exhibit on the fall of the Berlin Wall. So it's been a wonderful time. We've also celebrated the World Cup. We've had a number of outreaches and the wonderful celebration that culminated in the Germans actually winning the World Cup this year. We also represent, Eric and I, the diversity of members of this organization. Mein Vater war Amerikaner und meine Mutter kommt aus Deutschland.
And of course, my family, as you might imagine by my accent, has been here in the United States for many generations, but proud German Americans throughout those generations.
And we also wanted to take this time to recognize the other board members who are here this evening. If I will call the names, if you can stand when your name is called, that would be wonderful. We have President Emeritus Bernd Deichmann. He's also the Distinguished German American of the Year for 2013. Our first Vice President, Dr. Ron Docksai. Werner Hein, who you all have had a chance to meet already this evening. Thank you. Ron Cosmo. Ron is also here in the back. Margaret Creyson? Oh, she's okay. Okay, and the Vice President of Finance, Dr. John Manoyan. Please stand. We also have Thomas Ziedenbühler here. And former German American Heritage Foundation President, Mark Wheat. And our current treasurer, Wendy Wurlitzer, if she could stand. We also want to take a moment to recognize our sponsors for this evening. Our gold sponsor, Mayor Brown, who we appreciate so much for this beautiful venue. We also have other silver sponsors, our Bayer Material Science, PNC Financial. We have representatives here from PNC. There they are, thank you. Jana Martin, President CEO, PNC Trust, and Michael Harold. Thank you both for being here tonight. Also, we want to thank the Waldbad Prechter Family Trust, as well as Hardy and Gudrun von Almiller. Thank you so much. And our bronze sponsors, we'd like to recognize as well this evening, Volkswagen. Thank you. Wells Fargo. NXP. Omega World Travel, they've been one of the donated a lot of great silent auction items that if you have a chance to look at. I also wanted to thank, great, thank you. We also wanted to thank a number of families that have been contributing as well, and that is the Van Deichmann family for their contribution. The Dr. Ron Docksai family. Mr. Peter Esser. The Alan Hessig family, the Walter Lehman family, the Dr. John Manoyan family, the Mr. Hank Stoffel family, the Liesel, Karin, and Hans Trustoff Family Foundation, the Wendy Wurlitzer family, and the Albert Wutz family. Thank you very much for all their support to our organization.
At this point, we'd like to introduce our distinguished guest, Mr. Rudiger Bonn, head of the German Information Center at the German Embassy here in Washington, D.C.
Mr. Auenmüller, Mr. Wehmeyer, honored guests, ladies and gentlemen, it is again a pleasure and a privilege to be here with you today to recognize the achievements of another American of German-speaking ancestry in the US. Ambassador Wittig regrets very much that he is prevented from being here tonight, but of course he asked me to convey his regards to all of you and of course his congratulations to Mr. Wehmeyer. Today's gala takes place during a very busy time. The German Embassy is very much involved in numerous festivities celebrating the 25th anniversary of the fall of the Berlin Wall. And of course, I know that the German American Heritage Museum is also very active in this field. Some people may ask, hasn't the fall of the wall become a case for the history books of our children? How long will we continue to look back on the events of 1989 instead of concentrating on the new unified Germany and its future? And indeed, according to the latest figures, 2014 is the first year in which more West Germans moved to the eastern part of Germany than vice versa. In a recent survey, German youth said that they consider the regional differences between the northern and the southern part of Germany to be greater than between East and West. So this is without a doubt evidence that what belongs together is growing together, just as Willy Brandt had asserted 25 years ago. And still, I think it's precisely because the unification process was so successful that we have to make sure that society does not forget how difficult it was to achieve. Against this backdrop, it is particularly important to remember that the fall of the Berlin Wall has also a very important German-American dimension. Without steadfast American support for freedom and stability in Western Europe, and the fall of the Iron Curtain and the Berlin Wall would never have been possible. So the fall of the wall is also an American success story. Still, for many young people, transatlantic cooperation is less compelling or self-evident than it was during the Cold War. There's a trend that we need to work against. The major political, economic, and environmental challenges of our time required the close cooperation of the West on both sides of the Atlantic. In this context, I think it is important to highlight the contributions that Americans of German-speaking ancestry have made and make to transatlantic understanding and cooperation. People like Helge Wehmeyer stand for the outstanding achievements of German Americans in the US, for the opportunities provided in this country, and for the important role that German Americans and German expatriates play in the US business sector. His career also shows that the German and the US economies are deeply interwoven. Decades-long trade relations between German and American companies have created an atmosphere of trust and mutual high regard. Tightly interwoven supply chains have led to the creation of many jobs in both countries. The United States is now the main investment destination of German companies, and Germany is a hospitable home to many American companies. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, the German American Heritage Foundation has made an excellent choice by honoring Helge Wehmeyer as the 2014 Distinguished German American of the Year. On behalf of the German Embassy, I would like to thank the Foundation for its efforts in keeping the German American heritage alive and for highlighting the role of the German Americans in the US and the importance of transatlantic partnership. Thank you also for organizing today's 28th Award Gala. I wish everybody a pleasant evening. Thank you.
There'll be a hot time in the town when the youths go marching. Oh, you can never keep them happy down on the farm. I still take Berlin.
I've always wanted to waltz in Berlin. Waltz in Berlin, waltz in Berlin. The way things look now, we'll be waltzing right into Germany. And Uncle Sam will be leading the band. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Ach, du liebe Victory. I've always wanted to waltz in Berlin, under the linden tree. Und I've always wanted to watch on the Rhine, watch on the Rhine, watch on the Rhine. We watch until everything is fine. That's what it says. We are in Germany. And here is how we will keep them in line. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Jump will give you liberty. I've always wanted to waltz in Berlin, under the linden tree. Und I've always wanted to fly to Berlin, fly to Berlin, fly to Berlin. The way things look, we'll be flying right into Germany, and we'll drop down a present or 3. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Ach, du liebe Factory. That's what That's what he's saying. That's really what he's saying. I've always wanted to waltz in Berlin under the Linden train.
I wanted to take the opportunity to introduce to you our first Vice President, who has a very distinguished career himself. He served as the Chief of Staff to U.S. Senator Orrin Hatch. He was also Staff Director on Capitol Hill. He was Assistant Secretary at the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services under the Reagan administration, as well as opening the offices of the Bayer Corporation here in Washington, D.C., and also Dow Chemical Corporation. And with that, we would like to bring up Dr. Ron Dockstein.
Winston Churchill said that all history is biography, and unforeseen events can create a crisis, and a great man or a great woman steps up to the fore to solve a problem to benefit all the rest of us. At the German American Heritage Foundation, we celebrate these leaders, and we have since 1977 chosen one to honor. They have included Federal Reserve Chief Paul Volcker, World Bank President Robert Zoellick, Pennsylvania civic leader and founder of GAHF, our own Bernd Eichmann, the late and great General Norman Schwarzkopf, previous U.S. ambassadors to Germany, and a select few others. And more often than not, these distinguished American of the Year have been leaders of the military, diplomatic, or other public service. 2014 is a milestone because here, tonight, for the first time, we celebrate a major captain of American industry. Through his unparalleled leadership of Bayer Corporation as president and CEO, and his lifelong devotion to promoting enterprise and excellence in Germany and America, Helge H. Wehmeyer is in a league of his own. Born in Göttingen, Germany, Mr. Wehmeyer is an alumnus of the top two management institutes of Lausanne, Switzerland, as well as Fontainebleau, France. Before taking over as Chief Executive Officer of Bayer from 1991 to 2002, he 35 years earlier joined Bayer AG as a management trainee in its Leverkusen, Germany headquarters. He was then transferred to Mobe's office in New York City. That was 1969. He ran its synthetic fibers business in both the United States and Canada. He returned to Leverkusen in 1974, heading up Bayer's fibers marketing organization for Scandinavia and Great Britain, organizations that won multiple awards in Europe. Joining AGFA's Board of Management in 1987 with responsibility for its worldwide consumer product business, Mr. Wehmeyer 2 years later became its president and CEO. Yet all these global management achievements were a modest prologue to what he accomplished as the head of Bayer. Miles Laboratories was a prominent chemicals and consumer care company. But soon after Helge Wehmeyer took over as its CEO, Miles grew into the Pittsburgh-based powerhouse in chemicals, life sciences, and healthcare, which we today know as Bayer Corporation. Under Wehmeyer, Bayer in the NAFTA region grew to more than double its size, producing more than 10,000 products, and rising to become the 7th largest exporter in the United States. He walked the talk of quality performance. He introduced twice weekly senior managers meetings in Pittsburgh, the only time in Bayer's history, before or since, when managers on up had access to and could talk with leaders in both Germany and America. In human resources, he shattered the glass ceiling. In labor management, he strictly instituted rules of fairness. In foreign relations, he reached out to the American Jewish community, performing mitzvahs that won the recognition and praise of legendary Elie Wiesel. And for all the employees of Bayer, Wehmeyer inspired and reassured us that we were being led by the very best. And then there were the terrorist attacks of 9/11. A month later, weaponized anthrax ladders were found in the offices of several U.S. senators and some news organizations. Tiny specks of the white powdered anthrax were exposed to 6 people who died instantly. Others, more than dozens of others, were postal workers who handled the mail and became critically ill within 2 hours. Their lives were spared only because they were quickly given tablets of Cipro, a product made exclusively produced by Bayer. Cipro was then the only FDA-approved cure for anthrax. On October 21st, 2001, NBC's Tom Brokaw reported the story. He held up a little white tablet saying, "In Cipro we trust." Now, everybody wanted Cipro. But could the company produce enough Cipro? Could the American people get enough of it? Some in government moved to rescind Bayer's patent, while others, anticipating more anthrax attacks, closed down U.S. federal buildings. Would federal help come in time? My old boss, President Ronald Reagan, liked to comment, quotes, "There is nothing you cannot get done in Washington, D.C. if you don't mind who gets the credit." Helge Wehmeyer understood this right away, and he swung into action. Seldom seen on Capitol Hill was a CEO personally negotiating with HHS, U.S. Senate committees, and the White House. Mr. Wehmeyer set up the public-private agreement, which assured a steady supply of the life-saving medicine while immediately donating 4 million doses of Cipro to first responder postal workers in D.C., New Jersey, and Florida. Others have been credited, but it was Helge Wehmeyer who gave millions of Americans medical peace of mind, who saved Bayer's patent from government confiscation, and who raised the bar of German-American corporate leadership. And this is why Helge Wehmeyer is our man for all seasons. This is why tonight he is the one we've come to honor. Presenting our award is our president and our friend Hardy von Unmuller.
Thank you, Ron. What a powerful speech. How can I possibly top this? There's no way. All I can say is I've been sitting next to Helge for the last hour and a half. We had a wonderful dinner. And while we were talking, we all of a sudden realized we had a similar career path. We both spent our formative years in Niedersachsen, Lower Saxony. He in the far eastern corner, I in the northwest. Subsequently, we engaged our business career with the chemical industry. We, in fact, have had grandparents, you could call, namely the I.G. Farben, who was the all-powerful chemical combine back in the 30s. And after World War II, the company was split up into 4 subsequent organizations. One was Bayer, one was Hoechst. So he went with Bayer, I ended up with Hoechst. And so it went on. And I've really realized of late that when he came to this country as a discerning Protestant, they were church shopping, and they ended up as a Presbyterian, as we did, my wife and I. So there's a lot of commonality. And we ended up knowing one family with the longest history of German American in this year. He is a worshiper in Sewickley with Mary Beth Pastorius. The Pastoriuses are a 10th generation German American. Old Franz Pastorius was the person who was established the German town settlement in 1683 in Philadelphia. And now we live in the same state, he on the west side in Pittsburgh and I in Philadelphia. So somehow the Lord has meant this to be our evening, and I'm so delighted indeed to have the honor and the privilege to bestow this award to you, Helge. I truly deserve it. Please. Thank you. At this stage, since Petra is just standing next to me, I want you to all know she's been the person who organized this event. And I think she deserves, maybe as an interlude, a special recognition. Thank you. Well, let me stretch up to you. Oh no, you don't have to go into your knees, please. I am delighted indeed, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you.
You are deserving. Distinguished German American of the Year 2014, Helge H. Weimar. For his outstanding leadership as President and CEO of Bayer Corporation USA from 1991 to 2002, for setting a standard of excellence in cultural and civic leadership in the United States of America, for his corporate stewardship of Bayer Corporation, part of the global company with a proud German tradition in life science and polymers, and expanding patient access to medications in America around the world while protecting the intellectual property rights which make them possible. That's very important. Presented by yours truly this evening on November 1st.
Dear Hardy, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, I'm grateful for the honor you do me today by being here this evening. And I'm equally grateful for the warm and most generous remarks made by my dear friend Ron Dockside. I hope, Ron, that the two members of my family who are here tonight, my wife Erica, and one of our daughters, Claudia, recognize the person you described as having some resemblance to their husband and father. I'm very humbled to receive an award that has gone to truly illustrious German Americans, if I may name only three. General Norman Schwarzkopf, admired by me not only for his military brilliance. Being of a generation born during the war, and having lost my father at the end of that war, to this day I have a not untypical hesitation to acknowledge and admire military brilliance. That's a German heritage of my generation. But I admire General Schwarzkopf equally for his consummate skills of managing a difficult coalition force during Desert Storm I, almost on an Eisenhower level. Paul Volcker, a true hero of mine, and not only for his economic wisdom, he had the courage, in the face of unpopularity and rejection, the moral fiber to prescribe and administer the bitter medicine to combat a runaway inflation, thereby saving America from great economic and social damage. Again, because of my German heritage and bitter life-changing experiences of my parents and my grandparents, the fear of unbridled inflation and the following devastation is almost part of my genetic makeup. The honors bestowed on Chef Walter Steib are a testimony that the German American Heritage Foundation has a truly inclusive interpretation of what heritage actually is. If heritage is culture, food, cuisine really, is one of the most important ingredients. Locavore and regional cuisine brings this to the forefront of our consciousness. I should say, to the forefront of our palate. Chef Steib brings it to our table, or at least to our television screen. He makes heritage delicious. Highly distinguished German Americans, all three. Now, I would like you to accompany me on a walk through time. I would like you to come along on the road that made this German a German American. Let me start with something obvious. unless you are born to German ancestry in America, you have to come over here in order to become a German American. I did it the old-fashioned way, by sea, not by passenger liner, no, the really traditional way, in a commercial vessel, a freighter. I learned a great deal about maritime matters during the crossing, but most of all I experienced that there is a great ocean between Europe and America. Not a matter of 6 to 7 hours in a jet, but 8 days on the high seas. On the night of the 8th day, there was this great noise which woke me up. It was not a noise, actually. It was the absence of it. The ship's big diesel engines that had vibrated the ship had stopped, and we had dropped anchor. I looked out of my cabin window, and there in the distance were the lights of Lower Manhattan. There to the left were the lights of the Statue of Liberty. And overhead was a stream of cars crossing the mighty Verrazano Bridge. The next day brought a crisp Indian summer morning, when the air is so clear you seem to see the curvature of the earth. The brick buildings of that time on the tip of Manhattan glowed red in the autumn sun. The wind had whipped up white caps, and the blue sky reflected in the water. Red, white, and blue, the American colors. Brooklyn was still a very busy port at that time. We docked at the foot of 17th Street. A friend picked me up in his white Thunderbird convertible. Top down, red leather seats. I never ever had seen a car that long, 3 or 4 Volkswagens at least. I stowed my luggage, we went through the tunnel and then up the East River. 6 lanes of traffic. I had never seen this in Germany. Some of these gleaming monsters even larger than our Thunderbird. To my left, the high rises reaching for the skies. To the right, the blue waters of the East River, a white banana boat coming down the river. And I thought, this is it. This is God's country. I would have been even more excited if I would have known that within a few months I would meet Erika, my future wife, in Manhattan, now mother of our 2 daughters. And the daughter who is here tonight, Claudia, is the mother of 4 daughters, German-American all. Within a few weeks of my arrival, the darker aspects of my German heritage caught up with me. On a foul weather evening, I took the Madison Avenue bus back home when I became aware of some commotion. A woman became increasingly agitated, and when I turned towards her, I realized that, to my horror, that she was screaming at me. "Why are you here? How dare you? Have you no shame? Go back to Germany." Nothing had prepared me for this. Not my history teacher, with whom we had studied, discussed, questioned, and rediscussed the Nazi regime and World War II. Not the shocking numbers and pictures in the history books. Not even the plays and movies which came out with increasing frequency. No, here I was with someone who obviously was a survivor of the death camps, face to face. The woman had reached her destination and left. Soon my stop came. Before I left, a friendly face turned to me. "I'm so sorry what happened to you, but you're not really German, are you?" Within a few days, I became aware that many of my young compatriots pretended to be Danes, Dutch, Swiss, and a few historically illiterate pretended to be Austrian. Which produced the smile on many American faces? Austrian, that's fine. Fast forward. Pittsburgh in the early 90s. We had not bought the Bayer trademark back at that time, so the company name here in the States was Miles, and I was the CEO. My head of corporate communications came into my office with the words, "Helge, we have a problem." Bayer or Miles at that time had always been a general sponsor of the arts and culture in general. There was a lecture series we heavily supported. Unbeknownst to any of us, they had invited Elie Wiesel to come and speak in Pittsburgh. Elie Wiesel, Nobel laureate, Holocaust survivor, who had lost all his family in the concentration camps. An activist Jewish group had written to him that the sponsor Miles was really Bayer, a successor company to IG Farben, and Bayer had never apologized for what was done in their name in World War II. And the activist group planned to make this a public issue. That was her report. I asked her what our options were. Well, she said, we can withdraw our names from the sponsorship of the Wiesel event. Wonderful, I said. I can already see the headline. Miles Bayer withdraws sponsorship from Elie Wiesel event. And then almost to myself I said, it always struck me as wrong that we proudly list the continuum of chemical inventions, but never apologized for our company's role during the Hitler years. Why don't I apologize? Coming as CEO to Pittsburgh, I had built bridges to some leaders in the Jewish community. They helped me now to get my letter to Mr. Wiesel asking for a meeting. Elie Wiesel was more than gracious. He did not see me in his office, but in his New York City home. And he did not question whether an event would be possible, but we talked how I would introduce him and offer an apology. There was a freezing rain in the evening of the event, and people were late in coming into the hall. So there was a fair bit of commotion when I started my remarks. Soon, the audience realized that this was no ordinary introduction. You could have heard a pin drop. It was so quiet. I said what had to be said and what I wanted to say. How truly shocked I was when I became aware as a young adult what my country has done to millions of innocent victims. That I felt not guilt. Guilt belonged to the perpetrators. But I felt shame that a nation that saw itself as a bastion of culture and civilization could fall so low in the treatment of its own citizens of Jewish faith and those of its neighbors. I offered my apologies for what was done to those who perished and for those who survived the ordeal, whose dreams were shattered, perhaps by IG Farben, the predecessor company of my present one. And I asked the audience what we will do going forward. What will we tell our children and grandchildren? Whether the relation of Jews and Germans covering many centuries would forever be wrecked by 12 years of Hitler barbarism, or whether we would revive our common roots, revive the times when Moses Mendelssohn, Sigmund Freud, Stefan Zweig, Felix Mendelssohn Bartholdy, Kurt Tucholsky, Albert Einstein were cornerstones of the German culture. Elie Wiesel came out, we shook hands, I sat down in the audience. At the end, well over 50 people, all with European accents, evidently survivors, came up to me, wanted to talk to me and shake my hand. One woman said, I thought I would never ever speak to a German again. and she would not let go of my hand. A few weeks ago, the New York Times reported on young Israelis emigrating from Israel to Berlin. For many reasons: cost of living, job opportunities, the lively art scene, the general joie de vivre, but to Berlin. 6,000 Israelis moving to a city not called long ago Faust's metropolis? To me, it seems that the healing has begun and is progressing. After 9/11, America felt under attack not only from abroad, but from insidious anthrax attacks delivered through the mail system. Bayer's antibiotic was the only drug proven to be effective against anthrax. During Desert Storm 1, every soldier had a Cipro blister pack in his or her chest pocket should Saddam Hussein use this deadly agent. Norman Schwarzkopf probably had one in his. Following the first anthrax mailings, demand for Cipro started to skyrocket. Double, tenfold, rapidly approaching 100-fold of normal demand. Everyone wanted Cipro in the medicine cabinet, just in case. The government needed to step in to quell the panic. And there was a lot of public and congressional pressure on the government to do this quickly. And the government acted. We are now in Washington, meeting with Secretary of Health and Human Services, Tommy Thompson, and his staff. We had already settled the question of volume, timing and supplies, locations of strategic reserves, turnover of stocks so the inventory would stay fresh. And then the Secretary asked the crucial question: what's your price? Mr. Secretary, we said, the wholesale price is about $3.60 a dose. We sell Cipro at the lowest price to the Veterans Administration at $1.60 per dose. In view of the extraordinary emergency situation, we propose a price of $1 per dose. The Secretary said, 95 cents. We said, agreed. And we shook hands, and the Secretary left. We settled down with the staff to draw up the details of the supply contract, and this takes lawyers, many lawyers, and a good while. All of a sudden, someone on my staff alerted me to a Dow Jones newswire of an interview with the Secretary, stating, I just met with Bayer and told them the price I want, and they are still in shock. It took some effort for me to stay calm and collected, and then asked the HHS staff that I would like a one-on-one meeting with the Secretary prior to signing the contract. The next morning in the Secretary's office, I put the clipping of the Dow Jones newswire on his desk. He looked at me and said, I think I owe you an apology. I said, Mr. Secretary, when I was a wee boy, it was the Quakers of Pennsylvania who sent food to the starving children in Germany, children of a vanquished and morally bankrupt nation. America helped to keep me alive in those days. Little did I know at that time that America brought more than food to us, but also values, the respect of the rights of the individual, the values of a democracy based on the rule of law. Many of the German senior managers of my company had the same experience and share with me the desire to stand by America's side in the hour of greatest need. We do not see this transaction as a business deal, but as an act of solidarity and gratitude. The Secretary looked at me and stretched out his hands and said, please call me Tommy. And on my retirement from active service at Bayer, Tommy Thompson sent me the most generous and gracious video tribute, a tribute I will always cherish. Henry Kissinger, in his new book, World Order, remembers asking ex-President Truman what made him most proud of his presidency. Truman said that we totally defeated our enemies and then brought them back into the community of nations. Brought them back into the community of nations. And Kissinger adds that Truman wanted to be remembered not so much for America's victories as for its reconciliations. The hyphen in German American is called in German a Bindestrich, a stroke that binds together. Of German heritage, I can think of no better bond than that of American and German. You, ladies and gentlemen, support the celebration of German American heritage. This is to your great credit. You know that this heritage is not a nursery rhyme. You have a clear-eyed view of the fall German heritage took about 100 years ago during World War I. And what was left standing was almost fully demolished in World War II. Today, though, more than ever, Americans proudly declare their German heritage. In no small measure, this is due to your good work. This is why I'm much humbled, honored, and proud to accept your award, and I thank you.
We also, in addition to the presentations tonight, we also wanted to read a couple of the letters we received from the governor of Pennsylvania in honor of this evening. And so it states from the Governor Tom Corbett. To Helga Wehrmeyer, it is my pleasure to join with the German American Heritage Foundation of the USA to congratulate you on receiving the 2014 Distinguished German American of the Year Award. I commend you for your accomplishments and for your contributions to the German American community. The Distinguished German American of the Year Award recognizes Americans of German-speaking ancestry for their outstanding leadership, contributions, and achievements. Throughout your career and during your term as the president and CEO of Bayer Corporation, you demonstrated a dedication to the company and a talent for corporate leadership. Your service to your community through various boards and professional organizations is exemplary and worthy of recognition. As a recipient of the award, you deserve to be recognized for your contributions to the German American community, as well as your commitment to professional excellence. I commend you for upholding the Commonwealth's tradition of excellence, and it is my hope that your example of hard work and success will inspire others for years to come. As governor and on behalf of all Pennsylvanians, I am pleased to extend my sincere congratulations to you on receiving the 2014 Distinguished German American of the Year Award. Please accept my best wishes for continued success in all of your future endeavors. We also have a letter from Speaker Boehner, John Boehner. I would want to read that one really quickly. It says, "Dear friends, greetings to everyone gathered for the German American Heritage Foundation's 28th Annual Award Gala this evening. This annual event is a special way to celebrate the heritage and history of German Americans and recognize their many accomplishments. It is my honor to extend my congratulations to tonight's honoree, Mr. Helga Wehrmeyer, a German-born man whose leadership and professionalism resulted in many advancements for Bayer Corporation and in the relationship between the private and public sectors. He is certainly deserving of being named the 2014 Distinguished German American of the Year for his outstanding leadership and accomplishments in business and bettering our society. As you celebrate the accomplishments of Mr. Wehrmeyer and all German Americans, I applaud the efforts of the German American Heritage Foundation for its commitment to educating and sharing their history, culture, and spirit with their community. Best wishes for a successful event this evening and for continued good fortune for many years to come." Signed, Speaker Boehner. And we also have a beautiful certificate, and this is from Senator Pat Toomey that I also will present to Mr. Wehrmeyer. So, thank you.
And as we all know, the saying, behind every successful man is a strong and caring woman. So we present these to you, Ms. Waymire, as well.